My name is Gabe Brown, and I'm from Bismarck, North Dakota, USA. Two of my partners in Understanding Ag and myself are here visiting with farmers and ranchers, explaining to them the benefits of regenerative agriculture. I was born and raised in town, but always had an interest in agriculture. And I married my high school sweetheart, and she was from a farm. And so her and I had the good fortune of being able to take that farm over in 1991. And I learned how to farm from my father-in-law. And he farmed very conventionally: tillage, use of fertilizers and herbicides and pesticides. But I was one, not being from a farm, I always had a real interest in learning. And I'd read about no-till and how that was important to conserve moisture, conserve time. So in 1994, I sold all my tillage equipment and went to 100% no-till. Then I had a series of 4 years in a row where we lost our crops to hail and drought. And the bank was no longer willing to loan me money in order to buy inputs to put the crop in. So I had to figure out, how am I going to make this soil productive and be able to grow crops without all of those expensive inputs? And it led me down a path of learning, a path of education, where I self-educated myself as to how soils really function. And I tell people I learn every day. And even here, traveling to the UK, I'm learning from the farmers and ranchers here. And I have the good fortune now, through Understanding Ag, I travel extensively. I'm away from home about 280 days a year, and I'm on literally hundreds of farms and ranches all over the world. And what we found is that the ecosystems function pretty much the same everywhere. And people always think, well, it's not going to work here. Well, no, all soil is made of sand, silt, and clay. Everywhere you go, plants take sunlight, photosynthesis occurs. That drives the water cycle, the energy cycle, and the biodiversity drives it also. You have to focus on those four ecosystem processes. So our firm, Understanding Ag, is about education. How do we educate farmers and ranchers as to how the 6 soil health principles and the 3 rules of adaptive stewardship drive those 4 ecosystem processes? What we like to tell people is the definition of regenerative agriculture is farming and ranching in synchrony with nature to repair, revitalize, rebuild, and restore ecosystem function, beginning with all life in the soil, moving to all life above the soil. And this is the same anywhere in the world we travel. Now, the crop species used, the livestock species used, the equipment used, that may all be a little bit different. But the principles, rules, and processes are the same. It's much better economically to farm and ranch regeneratively. And I tell people, I use as an example nitrogen. Above every surface acre of earth in the atmosphere, there's approximately 32,000 tons of atmospheric nitrogen. Why would any farmer or rancher want to go write a check for nitrogen fertilizer when there's that much in the atmosphere? We just have to be smart enough to understand, how do we get it from the atmosphere into the soil? And the answer is through living plants and biology. The most common question, without a doubt, we get asked, well, will it work in my environment, whatever that environment is? And the answer, of course, is yes. And we can do it anywhere because of what I just described. So they want to know if it works, and then they want to know, well, what's it going to cost me? Well, the fact of the matter is, it isn't going to cost you anything, because all of those elements are free. All we got to do is grow living plants and understand what those plants do, how ecosystem functions. People often ask, well, is there a real growing interest in regenerative agriculture? Well, our firm started in 2017, and we started with just one client, and now we're consulting on over 33 million acres across North America and in the UK. I'd say that's an increased interest. What surprises people is they can actually write fewer checks. It's not going to cost them more money. It's going to make them more money, while at the same time doing what's right for the environment, because you're going to regenerate our precious resources, and it's good for the family. Your workload actually decreases. There's less stress because finances are much better. It's a win-win situation. I often get asked, yes, but we have to feed the world. How are we going to feed the world if we use regenerative practices? And I answer it this way. Look, my neighbor grows wheat. I grow wheat. But not only do I grow wheat on that acre in a year, I will grow a cover crop. I will graze cattle. I'll graze sheep. I'll graze pigs. I'll have laying hens on there. Broiler chickens will produce honey. Who's going to feed the world first? I produce much more food per acre than the conventional model does.